everyone. You've seen the stats, and now we hope to make the case for why accelerating action will lead to place supporting small and growing businesses front and center of national policy. Successfully supporting these SGBs requires cultivating entrepreneurial ecosystem, and ANDE is dedicated to doing just that by building a thriving network of people and organizations and supporting them through policy and program initiatives. We cannot do this without the active support of our partners across the region and are very grateful to them. Partners whose logos you will see throughout these 3 days, and many, many more who continue to support us every day in our work. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for making the time to be here. We look forward to your active participation and feedback over the next 3 days.
Right, at this point, thanks once again for joining us. And I will quickly, without further ado, hand the stage over to Bijan Islam, CEO of LightCastle Partners, to set the stage, not just for today and this session, but for the next 3 days. Bijan, thank you very much, and over to you.
Thank you, Sucharita, for inviting me. I'm glad to be here with the responsibility to kind of walk you through the opportunity of South Asia. I think we all know about it, but just to again refresh our memories and showcase the abilities, the strength of this region as well. I'll request to go to the next slide, please. Maybe we can go to the next slide. So I'll start off with kind of like a brief that the world is a big place, and I think the economy is projected to close to $86 trillion, right? And we close to have 7.5 billion people there, right? But I think Asia as a region is increasingly becoming a very, very important part of it. And if you look at the map, I think South Asia is playing a very, very important role in that. Next slide. Just think, as of now, this contributes to almost 5% of world's total GDP, right? And of course, there are large players like India, but we are seeing a lot of emerging players like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Nepal coming in as well with their important contributions. But what's even more important that yes, it's a large part of the global economy, but this also contributes to close to 25% of the total world's population. India already is the highest country in terms of the number of people living in it. We also have Bangladesh, Pakistan, which is like 5th and 8th in the world. And I think as time goes forward, we will see more and more people being part of this economy. And that means it's a large market, right? Next slide. So if you look at one very important indicator, which we often talk about is the GDP per capita. I think what's very interesting across the region for the last 20 years, we have seen significant growth in this particular indicators. A lot of the countries here are targeting to become a middle-income nation by 2030. And we see that all the countries here have upward mobility in terms of GDP per capita. Towards GDP growth rate, yes, there were hindrances due to the COVID, which we have all seen. But even within the pandemic, a lot of the regions have shown positive growth, which is good. And I think a lot of the economies are back on track. And we're increasingly going to see more positive growth in the coming 10 to 15 years. And this would begin supported by, as I said, a very large population. Almost 25% of the world's population lives here. But it's also a large young population. If you see the median age of the countries is rotate between 22 to 33. And that means it's a technology savvy, young, adaptive population that will have a demographic bulge in the next 10 to 15 years, which will again drive productivity and growth in this region. Next slide. And that means this is also a large market. I mean, the world cannot ignore this particular region anymore. India is expected to rank by 2030 the second largest consumer market, right? Bangladesh, Pakistan are also in the mix. And I'm sure Nepal and Sri Lanka will join the bandwagon as with their important contributions. And it's just not consumers, but these are middle and affluent class consumers. But they will have the spending capacity to buy global services and products. And that's why this market is increasingly becoming more and more important. Next slide. I just want to show the contribution that this region does to the world, right? What kind of services, what kind of products do they kind of export? If you see, of course, a large part of that is ICT, there is travel and tourism, but I think textile is another very important component, right? Which I think this region has benefited the whole world, contributing a significant part of the global consumer fashions demand. But we also see even other things, as things like jewelry, things like petroleum, right? Things like agriculture, which they contribute to the whole world as well. Next slide. And it's not just about exporting, it's also consuming. So this region is also a large consumer of global products and services, right? This also, which is no surprise, precious metals like gold, but also, oils, raw materials for textiles and ICT, travel and tourism as well. So a lot of activities, and this is a large market, close to 100 billion as estimated in 2021, right? It's a large part of the market that the global world kind of exports their products and services as well. Next slide. And I want to show that according to this industry that we're seeing, these are export driven, and there are industries that we also import. But I also want to show that this region is also strong on innovation. And I see while India definitely leads in terms of startups, innovations, and we have all here stories, I think in 2022, the startup funding per capita was USD 14. But I think Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal are also not far behind, and they're also picking up steam with startup funding growing 20 to 30% per year. We do believe with this growth, we'll have more innovations, more industries from this particular region as well. Next slide. And just kind of snapshot, and this is not obviously an exhaustive list, but I think this region contributes to the whole world, as I already mentioned, in terms of textiles, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, ICT. Nepal and Sri Lanka are very strong in tourism, while Bangladesh and Pakistan are very strong on textile. India is, again, I think, the largest hub for ICT in the whole world, but they're also very strong in agriculture, automobile as well. So these are some of the sectors where we see increasing opportunities. And this is going to continue, but there will be more innovations as well. And again, I have handpicked a few examples, but this is again not exhaustive. But I think when we think of South Asia and the countries, what are some of the things that really stand out? And these are some of the things that we can all be proud of. I think Bangladesh is often known as the birthplace of microfinance that made financial inclusion go to the next level and is being replicated, adopted by everyone all over the world. With India, hats off for becoming the 4th country to be in space, and that too from South Asia, and we're all proud of that. I think Nepal has taken adventure tourism to the next level, which is tourism married with sustainability, right? If you go up the mountain, you bring your whatever you have wasted back. So I think they have taken this to the next level. Pakistan is one of the world's most integrated water management system, adding value to their agriculture and showing the world what can be done, right? Sri Lanka has also done a lot of innovations in agriculture, especially in working with the smallholder farmers, increasing productivity to level where they have built global brands, such as tea brands all over the world. Again, these are few examples, but I'm very glad to say this is only one of few examples, right? We have many more examples from the region that South Asia can give to the world. Next slide. And again, it's us talking, but I also want to see that, global think tanks, global voiceovers, consulting companies are also talking about the region. BCG just projected Bangladesh to become $1 trillion economy. PwC has projected that by 2030 and by 2060, India is going to be bigger than the US. That's something, right? Nepal, again, is anticipating to grow at very high rates, according to ADB. We have seen Pakistan, again, fostering inclusive growth. And McKinsey also says there are enormous opportunities for Sri Lanka to grow as well. And if we combine all this, this means this becomes a regional powerhouse, right? We talk about regional blocks, but I think South Asia as a block is definitely very, very powerful. Next slide. Thank you. And I'll hand it over back to Andy.
Thanks so much, Bijon. You were kind enough, or you didn't, to stick to time, didn't really go into details of what you yourself do at LightCastle. So I'm going to post the link in chat for those who are interested. Please do take a look at the amazing work that LightCastle put out there. especially on the think tank front. With that, Anu, over to you and ICIMOD for a deep dive into the wonderful work that you are doing in the region.
Thank you so much, Sucharita, and namaste to everyone. I'm Anu Joshi Shrestha, and from ICIMOD, we're talking about future of regional opportunities here, and then as a regional organizations, working in 8 countries, what we did, and some examples that we've created, something that we're going to discuss today. I would like to invite my strategic group lead, Sabani Roy, who is going to briefly talk about how ICIMOD as an regional organization functions, what are the goals and missions of ICIMOD, how we have taken this regional opportunity forward. Over to you, Sabani.
Thank you, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Sarbani Roy, and I have recently rejoined ICIMOD after about 20 years gap, working and living in different places. So for those of you who don't know, ICIMOD is the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. It's about a 40-year-old organization, and our mandate is really to focus on development issues in light of the rapidly increasing climate impacts that we are seeing in this region, in the Hindu Kush Himalayas. So ICIMOD focuses on the HKH, spanning across 8 countries, from Afghanistan in the west to the Chittagong Hill Tracts of Bangladesh in the east, and every country in between. So Pakistan, all the countries, Bijan, that you've mentioned that are becoming, powerhouses of this region, India, China, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Afghanistan. Of course, as you can imagine, it's been a bit of a challenge, of course, to do work in Afghanistan and Myanmar at the moment. But ICIMOD is an intergovernmental organization. And so all of these 8 countries are members of ICIMOD. And they are regional country members. And our mandate is really to work for and with the regional countries, the communities, the governments, the private sector, and for the mountain people. So that's been ICIMOD's mandate for the last 40 years. And, this region is, as you mentioned, it's a growing region, both in terms of innovation, population, but it also has some of the highest rates of poverty still in this region. So, there's still a lot of challenges. And this region is also very, very, because it's seen as sort of, the third pole, so to speak. There's the Arctic, Antarctic, and because the Himalayas are the source of water for downstream, from about 10 rivers downstream, it's seen as the third pole. And this region is really facing a lot of global issues, climate issues as well, that are impacting this region that we need to take into consideration because it's rapidly changing. And melting of glaciers and the cryosphere, i.e. the ice, the permafrost, is really going to have an impact on food security, agriculture. All the innovations that we want to see happen, are going to be potentially affected by the rapid changes. So I think we need to sustainably look at how do we address this as we're developing this region and as we're developing innovations in this region. So next slide. So as I mentioned, one of the crucial things that we work on in this, what we call the strategic group on livelihoods and landscapes, is really looking at how do we, build on the unique characteristics of mountain ecosystems and mountain people and mountain cultures. And we work on economic issues, social issues, and environmental issues while we promote high-value products and services that are unique to the mountains. There's unique products in the mountains, unique culture. As you mentioned also, Bijan, about high-value tourism. This region, Nepal, Bhutan, very high tourism and lots of good examples of high-value, tourism enterprises that are happening in this region. But there's other, there's other unique elements to this region, and the mountains in the HKH, like not, what we call non-timber forest products that, can be really, marketed and packaged and marketed globally and at least regionally. There's other areas of work that ICIMOD is doing, for example, looking at not just tourism, but this area has a lot of what we call rangelands and grasslands, and a lot of raw materials for pashmina is coming from this region. So, and there's a lot of unique things that are unique to this mountain region that we can really build on and try and market and build the value of to market to global and regional markets. Next slide. So just to end, we really work in a collaborative approach. As I mentioned earlier, we work for and with the regional country members, governments, private sector, communities, and we try and foster collaboration. And we are critically, we're a knowledge center. So really looking at what works in terms of, what is the enabling conditions, what is the enabling environment that's needed in this region, and specifically to the mountains in the HKH, to enable entrepreneurship, to enable innovation, to enable, enterprises, and what are the conditions, enabling conditions. So we're looking at all of these areas and building that knowledge for policymakers, for and with the private sector, and for and with communities. And we're doing this very much in light of the fact that this region, as I mentioned, has quite a lot of challenges that we need to address, such as climate change, sustainable finance, sustainable resource management, and equitable economic development, so that we learn from the context of the different countries in the region. So that's a big role that ICIMOD plays in terms of fostering that kind of collaboration and knowledge sharing and best practices for and with the countries and member countries that we work with across the region. So that's a very brief overview of ICIMOD. I'd encourage you to really look and learn more about what we're doing. One of the areas, as I mentioned, in the livelihoods and landscapes work that I lead is really looking at enterprises and looking at enabling conditions. And Nepal, for example, wants to be a sort of startup nation. What needs to happen to have that happen? What are the enabling conditions? What are the policies that need to be in place? Who needs to be at the table, so to speak? So that's the work that Anu is leading up in terms of our enterprise work. So that's really, we're trying to build this out, again, as I said, taking in light of the unique characteristics of mountains. So we welcome your inputs and welcome your collaboration, as well as we are thinking through and really trying to build this area of work, both here in Nepal and in other parts of this region. So hand it back over to Anu to get into the details of what we're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabani. And well, with this context of what we do, there are shared challenges that are there in the region, and we really wanted to see how we can learn from each other and combat these challenges together. And therefore, in this, over the past decade, I'm going to talk about how we've developed this resilient enterprises in the HKH, how we've strengthened this area of work that we've done. We worked in many other areas as well, like glacial lakes, climate change, water, etc. But from the resilience perspective in enterprise, this is what we've done. So from 2010 to 2010, we started focusing initially. Before that, we really focused on agriculture and production end, but from 2010 we started really focusing on the market. So the first picture, if you see, this is we had a project on honey, and we worked in all 5 countries to promote honey value chain, and therefore the learning from each country, what quality, so it is at all 3 levels: science, in terms terms of what quality, what are the like how different are the honey quality in Bangladesh versus like in the mountains of Gilgit-Baltistan, or like in Nepal or Bhutan, and then like in how do we place it in the market. So that's something that we did. In 2012, we started focusing more on green and inclusive aspect, where like, we targeted on mountain niche products and services to really focus on value chains, and therefore like, products like Himalayan nettle, like, these are small enterprises, but has a lot of potential, and to really promote the economic development of that region. So we did that. And then we focused more on the climate aspect became very, very important. So like, we focused quite a bit on climate change aspect in 2014, where like, we really thought, how do we bring this climate change lens to the value chain work that we're doing earlier? So we brought in this topic of climate change to the existing work that we're doing. And this, I think, like, we started with another project called Himalika. The earlier project was Kailash, where 3 countries came together, Nepal, China, and looking at the Kailash sacred landscape and that region, Tibet, India, and Nepal. And here in Himalika, there is another project which is called Himalika, which worked in 5 countries, really focusing on climate change aspects. In 2016, 3 R's became very, very important to reducing risk, creating references, and resilience. So we really focused on how do we build resilience while like, reducing risk and creating references. So pilot activities became very, very important, and we really started working on those aspects. Then there was resilient mountain solutions. So like, since we created few pilots over the past years, we really wanted to look at what are the mountain solutions then, and in which areas have we looked at resilient enterprises and entrepreneurship ecosystem, and how policy should be focused. So like, from here on, we really started bringing in more policymakers and at a provincial level, and at a national level, at a regional level, also bringing all of them together, and like, really working on policies. And finally, like, it should be 2023 there. From 2020 to 2023, we're focusing more on contemporary issues such as like in RE and EE in enterprise development section, entrepreneurship ecosystem development, air pollutions, and how do we bring enterprises and startups who can really focus on air pollution lenses. And there are others as well, like, too much, too little water. Like, we're working on Koshi region, and then like, we're saying how does entrepreneurs and startups solve such kind of problems. So like, we're really working on bringing more youth to the table in this time, and then looking at startup ecosystem and how to bring them together. Next slide, please. So just to give you an example of cardamom value chain, cardamom we started in Nepal, and then like, learning from India, because it started in India and Nepal learned from it initially 40 years, 50 years ago. So, but then there was diseases in India, and then like, Nepal could really learn, like, after so many years, what is going to happen to the crop. So we also looked at crop diversification, and like in cardamom with kiwi, and then how we can bring this climate resilient agriculture aspect with diversified income, and then like, touch based on honey value chain coming in together. So we wanted to make it an integrated thing. Then we also, if we can click once more, yeah, then from the fibers we wanted to use the whole plant. So from the fibers we made natural fiber bags and purse, and like coasters and etc. So that when like people from the mountain, like, we create a lot of enterprise in the mountain and for the natural resources that they have. And we also focus quite a lot on nature-based solutions and nature-based products as well. And that learning, like, from all 3 countries, coming together, learning from each other, and like implementing it on their ground. Some were very good in terms of production, some very good in terms of diversification, and some also looked at branding. So like, the Himalika Kalika brand came as a Patty brand, where like, you know, all three countries can resonate with each other. So that's something that, as an example of one value chain, we did quite a bit in many other value chains as well over the past years. And that was like ecotourism aspect, where like in agrotourism was something that we wanted to do. So as a knowledge organization, we create such kind of pilots, but then that needs to be taken forward and scaled up by the government partners and the development partners and all over. So in terms of collaboration and coordination, ICIMOD really believes that cross-learning helps a lot, and seeing is believing. So we really think how it is important to learn from each other by going and visiting and coming together, working together. And therefore, like, you know, the first picture, if you see with all the like, you know, garlands that we have, this is like the idea that universities should be a primary focus in terms of entrepreneurship ecosystem development, which was like, you know, not coming together very, very strongly in this business aspect. We could bring policymakers and business together, but university was something that we wanted to bring in. So therefore, this is like, you know, the university that that we really wanted to focus on and bring this entrepreneurship ecosystem, and also understand how universities have incubation center, and that can focus more on climate aspects as well. We also did quite a bit of virtual programs. Mentorship became a very, very important thing. Climate action for clean air, where youth could really come in to fight climate action for clean air. Then virtually, like, you know, there were also mentorship program wherein, like, you know, we could do virtually as well. So like mentors from India, mentors from Bangladesh could actually mentor Bhutan and Nepal as well. So like, and there's no barrier in terms of, like, you know, countries and geopolitical issues. We could just come together and work together. So that's the learning that we had. And also we took government and private sector parties to from Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, and Nepal to Netherlands to really learn about how on a startup ecosystem and entrepreneurship ecosystem was fostered. It took them 25 years to reach till today, where climate became a very, very important aspect for them. And therefore, we wanted all the government and the private sector from all this region to come together and learn together, so that, like, you know, we can implement back home. So the focus of the organization, we visited all these organizations that you can see in this learning from the best Netherlands visit. Science, like, you know, how far they've gone in science practices, like, you know, what are they doing in terms of climate change and innovations and incubations, policies, what are there, and then knowledge as well. So a lot of cross learning becomes very, very important for ICIMOD to really foster knowledge and knowledge transfer and create that synergy between the countries. Just to give that example, one example of what happened after these knowledge sharing and also hand-holding support, the government of Bhutan started startup center once, like, you know, they visited, there was a plan that they wanted to start a startup center and had built a structure, but didn't know what to do inside. So we took them to Nepal and as well as India, and T-Hub was a click for them to really understand what they could do in Hyderabad. So from there, like, you know, our DG from Department of micro and meso level enterprises. We call them DCSI, Department of Cottage and Small Industries. Said, oh my God, like, you know, we need to rebuild this building. This is not how it's supposed to be. And therefore, like, you know, it was more vibrant. It was made, like, you know, a little more open and etc. So we incubate together, and then we designed the program together, and we did the hand-holding support to them. So 60 innovative green enterprises were incubated in this center. There were 20 plus women-led enterprises which was incubated. We also developed developed an operational manual for them to run the incubation center in an autonomous way, created 300 plus green and inclusive job. And since it was at a 2019, then COVID happened, so we did quite a massive capacity building programs and business health checkup, which went online, and everything went online. Therefore, I think that was a blessing in disguise, because we could reach out to them quickly, we could organize the training quickly. So I did a lot of virtual plus real trainings at that point of time. Then we linked them with CSI Bank and work with CSI Bank to really focus on incentives for green enterprises. Then we focused on co-developing mentorship program, and 30 plus international national mentors, as I said, from all over in HKH were also there to work with us. Then also, we went to Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship in India, and Ministry of Industry from Bhutan was also there, and they tied up together. And in that discussion, they said, we don't have technologies that are there, and the Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship, that time Joint Secretary was Josna Settling. They said, why don't you collaborate with our department, and then we can supply the equipment. So that really solved the problem for startups who are actually procuring products from India. Sometimes it is substandard, sometimes it doesn't come on time. Now that government to government collaboration is there, they get the products and technologies much faster and better, with more quality. So this intergovernmental as well as the regional opportunity makes us stronger and better while doing it. And also, for example, in the market is there among us. India is a very big market, China is a very big market, Bangladesh is such a big market now, Pakistan is such a big market. So if we could collaborate together, we're much better and stronger, I think. So I think there is a need, and ICIMOD is well at a position where we can foster those collaboration. Next slide, please. So in terms of Nepal, this is a good learning that we learned, that we work with government in Bhutan, but then in terms of Nepal, we developed policy framework together with the government, Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Supplies, also co-created the incubation centers for them, design innovative incubation programs renewable energy solutions in agriculture, or climate action for clean air, something like that, which is going to be elaborated by our partners who actually made it happen for ICIMOD, how they did it in due course. Then there is a consortium that has been set in Nepal with private sector universities, government, development organizations, and knowledge organization like us coming together, and also PUM expert from Netherlands coming together to set up this entrepreneurial ecosystem in Nepal, which this is a good learning, which can be which can be then taken forward in India, or in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, and Bhutan. The idea is sometimes Delhi is such a big market, and Delhi is really growing economy for entrepreneurship ecosystem, but might not be same in Uttarakhand, where we actually work in the mountains, or in Sikkim or Ladakh. So what we are going to showcase in this is, if Nepal can do it as a small country, if Ladakh can take the learning from developing a consortium or something, or Uttarakhand can do something like that, that's an effort that we would want to make it in future as well, at a mountainous region where we have the same challenges, as I said, we face the same challenges, and we want to overcome with the same challenges that we face in the mountains. So next, is what do we want to do? We really want to focus more on green enterprises. We've done quite a few of work, but then there's still a lot more to do. We also want to focus on building capacity to make enterprise green and resilient. Mentorship over the years, we learned that is a key to strengthen the resilience of entrepreneurship ecosystem. And I think in this COVID time, mentorship really helped startups and enterprises to stay put and wait till the storm is over. So I think mentorship becomes very, very important. Network and platforms and ANDE becomes very important partner for us as well, because we really believe in this regional partnership and platforms where we can share our knowledge, where we can learn from each other, because that's the core of what we also want to impart and disseminate among our partner organizations in all the HKH countries that we're working. And also policy support in terms of enterprise and entrepreneurship development to reach out to the global net zero carbon emission. Others might be doing in many other things, but for us, climate becomes very, very important. So to support the policymakers and build their capacity to really look forward and see if they can contribute to the climate change goal is something that we're looking at. And next slide, please. So finally, what we future plan is to expand this collaborative effort in addressing these challenges in the region. We've just now formed Giri Alliance, which Minaj is going to talk about, where all we have, if you in those pictures, we have Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal coming together. As I said, as Tabani also said, Afghanistan and Myanmar is a little difficult at this point of time, and China is very, very big. So we're also trying to see how we can get the learning from China. But at this point of time, Giri Alliance focuses on 5 countries to really focus on sustainable development, and development entrepreneurship was a big focus in that as well, because we feel that the concept is really growing, and then we really want to learn more about it as well. In conclusion, ICIMOD remains committed to being a driving force for positive change and emphasizing the continued importance of collaboration in achieving ambitious climate targets, climate change goals, and sustainable economic, social economic, and environmental goals as well. So I think this is what we do, and I hope I'm keeping on the time that I'm given, 10 minutes. But yeah, over to ANDE. But then or I can also share, invite Neeraj to give a little more brief on the work that we've done in Nepal, Bhutan, and India. And also, we've partnered with entrepreneurs since 2018, and this journey, I think we've done it together in order to develop this entrepreneurship ecosystem. So I'd like to invite Neeraj Khanal, CEO of Entrepreneur, to give
Anuji,
this. Yes.
sorry, if I can, since we have the Giri Alliance slide up, maybe first invite Minhaz Bhai to speak a little bit about the Giri Alliance, and then he can hand over to Neeraj. Does that sound all right?
I was thinking Giri Alliance, because it is a future that we wanted to see. We want to look at the past first, and then we would want to. So I'd like to invite Neeraj to talk about what we did and how the collaboration and how this regional opportunity and bringing all these countries together help their organizations to grow, as well as impact a lot other in the region. Thank you. Over to you, Neeraj.
Thank you so much, Anuji. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. So we've been working, my company Entrepreneur has been working in this ecosystem since 2015. So prior to that, I used to work with the startups and investing in startups. So I started a lot of impact-driven companies that we see these days in Nepal, so what kind of impact-driven companies that we see and what kind of impact investors that are available globally. And that is what I used to do before. So, supporting impact-driven companies and, impact investment. And later on, realizing the fact that, we were working on for accelerators and FDIs, but there was a very, very much of a gap where, the early stage innovations, startups, the critical mass that we need to see of startups, because a lot of, we all know that startup fails quite often. And so, but for that, we need to have some startup, bunch of startups that are available in the market, and to support, how to support them. So that's how I started investing on those startups myself. And then I registered my company Entrepreneur, and then through that company, uh, I've started investing again. But the thing was, that our investment climate was not as we wanted to. The ecosystem is not that robust. The policy framework, policy things were missing. And the university, we hardly talk about entrepreneurship or startups or innovation. There's a very conventional way of teaching and learning things. So those were all those things. Chambers, they were only focusing on big businesses, trades and all those things. We didn't, we are not so much used to these talking about innovation and startups. All those things were not there. Government, we are not there. So later, then after 2015-16, government actually started talking about the startups here in Nepal, 16-17. And they call us for, the ecosystem actors for the policy thing. So what kind of policy that we should be coming for the startups here? But because of the political changes quite often here in Nepal, that's every time when we are making policies, the government used to get changed, and then the policy were not there. And then the committee were formed and everything like what that was there. But during that time, as we are talking about the regional corporations and regional opportunities, that's where I was drafting the startup policy for the country. I was able to refer the lot of policies. Like even I reached out to Minas, one time I remember that, and asked him for what kind of policies the Bhutan, Bangladesh has been doing. I knew Minas for a long time, and they are doing amazing in the space of the startups thing. So I was consulting with him, Bangladesh, and with India. We are referring a lot of policies of startups, be it from Uttar Pradesh or Bihar or Gujarat or everywhere. We are learning those kind of things very virtually, very virtually. Uh, but since ICIMOD, we collaborated with ICIMOD, we got an opportunity that ICIMOD really was promoting the ecosystem. But that was a green ecosystem, but later on the entrepreneurial ecosystem was also in there as in that. So that has helped us a lot for this country to now got the chance to for the go to India, even we went to the exposure visit to Netherlands to learn about the startup policies, innovations, the tech-based agri-tech or anything kind of innovations that we've been hearing from the news or the social media. But with the collaboration with ICIMOD, we got now opportunity to learn from India, going there, and going to Netherlands. That was there, and then we are able to even with the Bhutanese colleagues, we are able to go to India, and uh, so and we Bhutanese colleagues also came to Nepal, and learn about how we have been doing. The way Bhutan and Nepal were in the same pace. The things. Even Bhutan was up one step ahead on the policy side, or the government initiative. Let me say in that way. That is how that was there, and then with the support of ICIMOD, and the collaboration with ICIMOD, we were able to enter into Bhutan, and we come up with with the operational plan, mentorship guidebooks, and all these startup center, how to strengthen the ecosystem there, or the startup center. So with the learning, after working 3 years, we've been partnering with Kesang now. The collaboration again came with Bhutan. There are a lot of friends that we have made from Bhutan. Beautiful thing. They have been doing amazing work, and the government people now frequently every 1 year we've been meeting them, virtually or physically every year, but virtually they've been doing continuously a lot of things. And this last year also with the Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Bhutan, we went to Netherlands, so that has been taken initiated by ICIMOD, and we went there, and our government people, mostly the government people were there. So to learn about what the other mature economy have been doing on the space of innovation and startups. So that has been quite a learning opportunity for us. So with all these things, the regional learning, how we since 18, then we thanks to COVID, the virtual things wrap it up, so that came up, and we were able to meet quite often with the virtual things as well. And then the policy things, we've been loudly talking about the policy things, and the ecosystem, building the ecosystem, like in Nepal, what we've been in, as Anuji rightly mentioned, we formed the consortium comprising government, Ministry of Industry, our Federation of Commerce and Industries, and universities. There's an apex body of governing body for university that called University Grant Commission, ICIMOD, Entrepreneur, PERM, that's from Netherlands senior experts, where they support us in bringing the experts from different domains of areas of business and technical expertise. So we came together, and now we have been talking about developing Nepal as a startup nation 2030. So ICIMOD has been playing the very crucial role on that, where they have the very much good experience and knowledge on how to develop policies, but we as a practitioners, we come up with the inputs and everything like that. So sometimes our we should not be reinventing the wheel. So we always consult with Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, to so on how their policy has been working, and how the startups and innovations should be taken care of. So with all these things, and all working for the last 4 5 years with all these countries in this region, now we realize that there's the competitive advantage of this region, as a how to what kind of let's say in the context of India and Bangladesh, they are really amazing doing on ICT sector, but in the context of green and clean economy, Bhutan is doing amazing. The product and services that these startups are bringing there was remarkable. That was amazing. So those kind of things were there. Then we realized that the product, that the green product should be promoted. That is the competitive advantage for this region. That's what we observe. Going to Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, the competitive advantage of having these things, the green products would be the most competitive things for us as well. So while talking about startups, not only about the IT and agri-tech or anything like that, but there are some companies that are there, the company startup ideas that are their ideas, really their products and services can be exported globally. So that's why we came up with the idea that the roof of the world. So that's this Hindu Coast Himalayan region. So with this Hindu Coast Himalayan region, we are now working on the exploring the product and services that the startups are bringing, that can be really get the market for the market for in the international community. So that's how with all these regional exposures and visits networks that we had, and the conversation we had with our regional partners, and the regional other government and the private sectors, that's how the next upcoming thing would be the roof of the world that we are planning for. That is the export driven products that we will be working for, incubating, accelerating, investing. So for that, we want to we open hand for the collaborations with every one of you here. So that's what I have to say. And thank you so much, ICIMOD, for all these initiatives and the things that we have been doing for this region, and ANDE for inviting me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Neeraj, for highlighting the basics of what we did together, and also Entrepreneur. We're very, very impressed with how Entrepreneur has grown over the past years, and we would certainly want to work together with Entrepreneur in future as well. With this, I'd like to invite Kesang Om to talk about our initiative, one of the cohort that she led in Bhutan, Climate Action for Clean Air, which was quite a learning for ICIMOD, Entrepreneur, as well as ILS as well. So over to you, Kesang.
Hello, everyone. My name is Keza. I'm the CEO of Institute for Learning Solutions. First of all, thank you so much, Andy, for having me. Thank you, ICIMOD and Entrepreneur for having me. So basically, so for the viewers there, let me first introduce my company. What we do is we do a lot of entrepreneurship programs, not just here in the capital, but we have been traveling around the country and now slowly exploring outside in the Southeast Asia on the entrepreneurship program. And within Bhutan, I would say that entrepreneurship is now growing. It's a buzzing topic. There's a lot of other offices and stakeholders who are coming in, trying to understand entrepreneurship, trying to understand what our youths would be interested in. So this is happening. So the support from the government and the corporate is very big right now in Bhutan. And our youth, not just here in the capital, but all over, even they understand that there are certain things that they would like to address, and they would not want to. Normally during my time, what would happen is right after graduation, the path would be civil service is what we would be encouraged to. But now I'm very happy to see that in this generation, the youth all over, they're now exploring that, hey, guess what? Civil service is not just the only way to make a living. Now I can go with the passion that I'm interested in. So I'm very happy to see the change in interest in the youth also. But having said that, since this concept, entrepreneurship concept, is still growing in the country, there's still much that needs to be done. Mentoring is another topic that we're still trying to understand. We're still trying to model a very good mentorship operation and see how it would benefit our aspiring and established entrepreneurs. Now, when it comes to the KAFOKA program that Madam Anu recently talked about, it's a partnership between Nepal and Bhutan. So the entrepreneurs from Bhutan and Nepal, all of us together, 5 from Nepal and 5 from Bhutan, we try to see the element of climate or clean air into our business program. Now, you have to understand that Bhutan, being a carbon negative country, we do enjoy the clean air that we breathe, but it never really occurred to our entrepreneurs to include the element of climate or clean air into their business proposals or in their daily operations. And when I say that, I do not mean that we do not have environment entrepreneurs. We do have environment entrepreneurs, but they may be in smaller numbers. Many of our entrepreneurs do not consider including the element of climate or clean air into their proposals. And through this KAFOKA program, what we were able to learn was we were able to see entrepreneurs in Nepal who were constantly trying to see how they can address the pain point that is clean air in Nepal. And that was a big learning opportunity for our 5 entrepreneurs. And I assume that the Nepal entrepreneurs were also able to learn that Bhutanese entrepreneurs were also exploring other pain points in their business proposal, and how they were able to learn to include climate and clean air element. And not just the knowledge exchange that was happening between the entrepreneurs, but we were also able to bring in mentors not just from Bhutan and Nepal, but Sir Niraj also mentioned mentors from Netherlands. So they were also able to come in. They were able to talk to our entrepreneurs, but they were also able to talk to our mentors to see where do they stand, what is their stand. and also to share their challenges, mentoring. So we were able to do all of this only under the umbrella of Kafoka. And moving forward, I feel that given the time frame that I have, moving forward, I feel that our entrepreneurs, the 5 graduates from Kafoka, are now able to talk to other entrepreneurs about, hey, do you have the environmental element in it? What are you doing with the waste? How about the air that we do? And also, they're also able to advocate about clean air and environmental safety and environmental benefits in their business proposals. That was just on the entrepreneurs front. Also in my office, what we do is after this program, we were able to include the element of environment into our daily training curriculum. And just quite recently, actually yesterday, we ended another program with entrepreneurs, trying to make it very inclusive. We had people from disability associations, we had people from women empowerment programs. So we were also able to tell them about trying to make their business not just about be it entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship, not just on business aspect, but also to include the element of climate and environment. So the point that I'm getting to is, moving forward, I feel that we need to do more such programs, very similar to what we did with Kafoka. The knowledge exchange that we had with Netherlands and Nepal is priceless. And such programs are still very much encouraged, not just with Nepal and Bhutan, but also in the other Southeast Asian regions, so that our entrepreneurs can understand the challenges that they're going through. But furthermore, not just to limit it at the challenges, they can understand how can they collaborate. Because the talent that Bhutan can offer, maybe Nepal needs that. The talent that Nepal can offer, Bhutan needs it. So I can see there's so many collaboration avenues. We were able to identify a few during the Kafoka program, but if we open such programs to the entire Southeast Asia, I think our entrepreneurs can do wonders with the passion that they have. On that note, I keep it short, but I'll be available on the Q&A slot if anybody has any questions. My video will be off, but I'll be available online. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kirsan. It's always pleasure working with you with such a passion that you have and the change that you want to bring in the society, not just in an economic front, but also environment and social front. And therefore, ICIMOD becomes very, very obliged to be having such a partner like you and ILS, where all 3 dimensions are really taken forward, clearer and better. Thank you so much. And with this, I would like to invite Minaz Anwar. We've known recently, but his knowledge has been so vast, and he played such an integral part in the workshop that we did together, that we see big future together with him. And there are a lot of scope to work in the region and in terms of collaboration. So we had formed this alliance called Giri Alliance just recently, and the think tanks are in him and the other our partners from the region as well, so mostly him as well. So I'd like to thank him and also share his ideas and knowledge about how to take Giri Alliance forward, and how it brings that opportunity, how to tap the opportunity from the region. Minaz, over to you.
Thank you so much. It's been really great to listen to all the energy and passion and also all the evidence base. I think truly it's amazing that we are 1/4 of the world's population. And besides all the numbers, I think we are certainly quite a diverse, and the richness in that diversity. I would like to build on Anuji's reference to collaboration and talk about primarily 3 messages that I have for all of us in this room. First of all, I believe we are at a point in history where the future is indeed in collaboration, in convergence, and in confluence of 3 things again. One is the ideas, second is people, third is action. And to give maybe some examples, very recently you may have noticed IFAD went to public stock market to raise money. And we also have been hearing about governments adopting personalization to bring about services to its citizens. And also, I know many startups now to reach the last mile, they're building on the backbone that has been created by the government and non-government organizations. So there is so much that we can bring about by working together between government and private actors, between startups and SMEs, between development organization and rest of the community. So I think indeed in that spirit, this South Asia Convening is rightly talking about all different kinds of convening and convergences. My second point, since we're talking about building an entrepreneurial ecosystem at a regional level, is about the fact that the act of building ecosystem is generational. So maybe, that perspective is often missed out because the act of coming together needs patience, needs a lot of efforts, needs a lot of sacrifices. And if we know right from the beginning that it will take time and we'll have to go through the thick and thin, then maybe we're better prepared. That's the second point. And the third point is something that I personally believe in. I believe in this room, I have a lot of empathizer of that concept is the future of this planet and particularly of our region is in our hands, right? And also the playbook, how we build our entrepreneurial ecosystem, how we support the startups and SMEs, how we work together. The playbook isn't given by anyone else. We ourselves are creating it, right? And that's the spirit of the Giri Alliance. And Giri, I will break it down for you. It's green, inclusive, resilient entrepreneurial ecosystem. And uh, Giri as a word also has meaning, I believe, in almost all the languages of the region. It means rightly the mountain. And so this alliance of all the players of this Hindu Kush Himalayan region is about looking at that particular segment in the Hindu Kush region, the mountain entrepreneurial community that has not been perhaps supported well enough in the past. Niraj mentioned about how Bangladesh is making good progress in terms of ICT. And I totally agree. He also stressed the need for reaching out and democratize it, be inclusive and decentralize and reach out to the community that are left out of the mainstream. And in order for us to achieve that inclusive perspective to build that ecosystem, we have come together a couple of weeks ago, and thank you, Anuji and ICIMOD for convening us. And all of us together, we decided to take a very practical way forward. So roughly 24 hours plan that we have come to play out. And it's not very rocket science or very ambitious as of now, but it's about getting started with whatever we have right now. So the first piece of work that we are doing at the moment is assessing the current state of affairs. What's in there? What are the policy framework that exist? What are the good practices that we can build on? So it's about mapping the current knowledge that exists at the moment and the current practices. The second one is, of course, getting started, building on the knowledge and practices, bringing about excitement through hackathons, through events, through simulation opportunities like startup weekend kind of ideas of mountain entrepreneurs, right? And then coming to a solid cohort of maybe a couple of businesses from the region, from each countries, and providing them with the mentorship, with the training, with the guidance that they need to thrive. And then, although it may sound like a very lackluster kind of an idea, but I think the true energy and true spirit is in the collaboration. So for the first time, we as countries coming together, and in this collaboration, we have both private and government actors, and it's not closed, it's very open. Everyone in this call and beyond can certainly join hands, and we're actively looking at understanding what each of you are doing and how might we collaborate together. So that's the open invitation through ICIMOD and ND and then everybody on this call to reach out to any one of us on this call. I'll be happy to also facilitate if you have my coordinates. I'm available on LinkedIn. And one final point, I think one of the questions that came also that I wanted to leave my comments with is the world needs more collaboration. And oftentimes, the ideas like startups and SMEs are looked at very maybe different and isolated kind of concepts. I would like to say that, these are spectrum. These are elements of the same spectrum. The ability for us to deal with inclusion, resilience, and climate challenges have to be very collaborative and also very inclusive. Therefore, as much as startups can offer transformational opportunities to bring disruption to how we do things, the SMEs are definitely the largest provider of the jobs, and they're also the largest in number of businesses. So we have to work together as much as between SMEs and startups, as well as between private and government, between development and startup. So I believe in this room, we have all kinds of audience together, and I'm very pleased to be able to speak to all of you. And thank you, Suchi, Cypria, and Anuji, Niraj, and Bijan for setting the scene, and colleague from Bhutan as well. Wonderful being here. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Minaj. And this sets the tone of what we wanted to do in future. So ICIMOD really focuses on the green lenses. So environment becomes very, very important for us. Over the past 40 years, we've been advocating about environment, and last decade, I think, and plus, we're focusing on bringing business to really think about environment and not just policymakers and environment advocates. So here we are with this open invitation to invite everybody to come and join us, where we think about enterprise from green, resilient, inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem lens, and to come together because we're also going to COP. So where there we're also saying 2 degrees is way too much. 1.5 is something that we want to limit. And until and unless business sectors, everybody, each and every one of us puts an effort to it, we're not going to reach. And if we don't, then there won't be water, and there'll be a lot of issues, and probably that's a human extinction that we're looking forward to. So that's very, very important. And therefore, let's bring this environmental, social aspect also to business. And with that, I'd like to thank everybody who is here. We've got more than 45 participants here. I would like to thank all of them, as well as the organizer, ANDEs. Thank you, Minaj, for linking us with ANDEs as well, Sucharita, as well as Bjorn and all the team of ANDEs for inviting us and letting ICIMOD host this session, the first session that you have. We're very honored from ICIMOD side, and we would further like to collaborate. And I'd also like to thank my partners, Entrepreneur, ILS, and also BetterStories, who's going to be our partner, for joining in this session, and then giving their experience to us. Thank you. With that, I'd like to invite Andy to take over from here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anu, and the entire group that's here. I know you've answered a few questions. And I think you were in the middle of answering the question from Mukund on the role for branding and certifications to offset price disadvantage. So maybe you do want to take that. I know Minhaz Bhai in his sharing has actually answered some more of the other questions in more detail. But we have a couple of minutes, Anu, so if you can take that one, and then maybe I will answer the other unanswered questions that is in Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Sucharita. I think like I was about to write, but then I got distracted a little bit listening to Minaj and everybody. So the idea is, I think it does have an advantage in terms of price while it comes to branding and labeling, and more so for the mountain products because it's already green, and we have to from Asia and Southeast Asia, basically South Asia, that we are. Um, I think we're mostly green from whatever we do, especially in the mountains, because our we work in hydropower based, enterprises and etc. So it's all about how do we brand ourselves and how do we mark up our price to take the advantage of the green concept that is coming, and like an inclusive concept that is coming. So I see a lot of opportunity for branding, labeling in future as well, because for the mountains, we just have to promote the mountain concept. For example, Bhutan, they already say Bhutan is organic. It's very, and then we need to brand it accordingly so that we get advantage of that thing. So that's where we are right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Anu. And I know we're almost at time, so I'm quickly going to answer the next question. And Mukund, yeah, very, very welcome, Mukund. Good to have you here. Our pleasure. And, like everybody or many of the folks have reiterated, this is just the beginning. Please do reach out to us, because the point of the conversation and the deep dive today is that we can follow up with action on the ground next, right? Only then we would have achieved our goals, I think, as a network. But to your question on what's the biggest challenge, I'm just going to reiterate what Minhaj Bhai said, right? He called it generational. Building ecosystems is a generational thing, is the terminology he looks. So it's a long-term play. So for people who are looking for big changes, systemic changes to happen in 1 year, 2 years, very, very unlikely. So, in a sense, that's a mindset shift that I think folks who are working on developing ecosystems need to recognize. I think the other is in your question, right? Whoever has posted this, which is about collaboration. Collaboration is easier said than done. I think we are typically, especially in the enterprise and the private sector spaces, the development sector actually does it far better. And therefore, for us in the private sector to learn from them is that we come from a place of compete, right? And to actually, again, change the mind to figure out how we can collaborate with each other in spirit, not just in letter, is again something that takes time. So I would just like to highlight those 2 points, but I think with the kinds of partners that you've seen on the session today, we should be well placed to start sort of moving the needle on that front. With that, formal thank you, Cypria, if you can put the slide up for the next session. Ananya has also shared a feedback link in chat. Please do let us know what you think, because if you don't, we can't really adapt and do what we're doing better. We did deep dives this year based on feedback we received last year, so would love to hear from you. And please do join us for the following sessions. You would have received a link to those sessions in your inboxes for those of you who are registered. Ananya is also sharing details in chat. With that, thank you very much, and hope to see you at the next session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Also, Cypria, if I can get the presentation made by Lighthouse.
Bye.